Greetings all. Why can't the Emperor of Mankind leave the Golden Throne, potentially recovering from his injuries and state of near death? The Warhammer 40K universe is a sprawling mythos teemed with legends, heroism and tragedy. None more iconic than the figure of the Emperor of Mankind and his eternal vigil on the Golden Throne. Why can the Emperor not simply leave the Golden Throne despite his grievous condition? This inquiry delves deep into the labyrinth of the lore, exploring the Astronomicon, the Chaos Plan, the wounds inflicted by Horus, and the dying act that marked the dawn of the current Imperium. To understand this, one must examine not only the physical and metaphysical restrictions placed upon the Emperor, but also the grim reality of the Imperium's dependence on him. The Emperor, the immortal architect of humanity's empire, was mortally wounded during the climax of the Horus Heresy, a catastrophic civil war that fractured humanity's reach across the stars. His primary adversary Horus, once the favoured son and war master, became corrupted by the Chaos Gods and led a rebellion that nearly tore the Imperium apart. The final confrontation was brutal and decisive. Horus's betrayal left the Emperor grievously wounded, on the verge of death. However, he was not allowed the solace of rest. Instead, the Emperor was seated on the Golden Throne, a life support device designed to preserve his existence in a state that is more of a torment than rest. The Golden Throne serves a dual purpose. It stabilizes the Emperor's ravaged body and acts as a psychic beacon through which the Astronomicon flows. The Astronomicon is an essential psychic lighthouse that guides Imperial ships safely through the warp, the turbulent alternate dimension used for faster-than-light travel. This psychic beacon is necessary for interstellar navigation, maintaining the cohesion and function of the Imperium across countless worlds. Without it, humanity's empire would fragment and fall into chaos, as warp travel would become perilous and nearly impossible. The Emperor is the cornerstone upon which the Imperium stands. His sacrifice is its anchor, and yet his chains are his crucible. This leads directly to the core reason why the Emperor cannot simply leave the Golden Throne. His existence on the throne is intrinsically linked to the Astronomicon's operation. Should he abandon it, the psychic beacon would extinguish, dooming the Imperium to collapse into splintered factions, pernicious warp storms, and an inevitable demise under the unrelenting assault of Chaos forces. The Emperor's presence on the throne is thus a prison and a pillar. He is trapped by his duty to sustain humanity's fragile empire, and humanity is equally imprisoned by his dependence on his sacrifice. The nature of the Emperor's wounds inflicted by Horus exacerbate this trap. The mortal damage he suffered was catastrophic. His body was beyond normal healing, requiring a fusion of science and psychic power only the Golden Throne could provide. The throne's intricate systems stabilize his failing flesh and bind his soul to the material realm, preventing total death. Yet this carries a liminal existence where the Emperor is neither fully alive nor fully dead. His body is but a husk, and his consciousness is engaged in continuous, unfathomable psychic struggle to maintain the Astronomicon's light. His agony, coupled with his immense power, cements his physical and spiritual place on the Golden Throne. Furthermore, there lies the insidious influence of chaos, the malevolent force that seeks to corrupt and destroy the Imperium. The Emperor's ongoing psychic presence on the throne acts as a bulwark against chaos's encroachment into real space. In many respects, the Emperor's suffering is the front line of defense, holding the tides of warp entities and demonic incursions at bay. His withdrawal would not simply end the Astronomicon, but would unleash torrents of chaos energy that would rend the Imperium apart. Chaos's plan relies heavily on destabilizing this fragile equilibrium, and the Emperor's state or departure could be the catalyst for their ultimate triumph. In considering why the Emperor cannot simply leave the Golden Throne, it is essential to examine the political and religious dimensions that have grown around the figure since the Horus Heresy. The Adeptus Terra, the Imperium's ruling human bureaucracy, maintain the Emperor's image as a godlike figure, a divine sacrosanct presence who is the eternal ruler of mankind. His immobility on the Golden Throne has been mythologized into an unbreakable symbol of sacrifice and divine will. In many ways, the Emperor's being on the Golden Throne transcends the codex of mere mortal rulership. It is a soul of imperial authority and the rallying point of imperial faith. However, this religious martyrdom also serves a practical purpose. Any attempt to remove the Emperor, even if medically possible, risks immense political instability. The Imperium's societal cohesion hinges on the mythos of the Emperor, and without him the Imperium's various factions and organizations might fracture and fall into internecine warfare. The Emperor's stasis ensures continuity in both spiritual and temporal realms. This paradox of sovereignty through immobility adds another layer to the complexity of why the Emperor cannot forsake the Golden Throne. Adding to this tragedy, there exists ongoing rituals and sacrifices performed to maintain the Golden Throne's power. The throne requires enormous psychic input, often at the expense of psykers who are sacrificed to sustain the Emperor's energies. This grim toll is necessary to keep the beacon alive, reinforcing the notion of the Emperor's position as one of perpetual suffering for the salvation of humanity. The machinery itself is ancient and arcane. Attempts to replicate or repair it have failed repeatedly, underscoring the uniqueness of the Emperor's relationship with the throne. The depth of the Emperor's sacrifice and eternal presence can be summarized by a haunting reflection from the lore. Even in death, the Emperor guards the Imperium, chained to the ruinous throne not by choice, but by duty. This binds the narrative of the Emperor's predicament tightly with the themes of duty, sacrifice, and the unyielding struggle against chaos that permeates the Warhammer 40,000 verse. In conclusion, the Emperor of Mankind cannot simply leave the Golden Throne, because he is the Imperium's psychic lighthouse, its anchor against chaos, and its symbol of unity. His mortal wounds sustained in combat with Horus necessitate the life-preserving technology of the throne, whilst his psychic presence fuels the Astronomicon, ensuring humanity's survival across the stars. His suffering is a sacrificial gambit, a never-ending vigil that prevents the Imperium's collapse, both physically and spiritually. In the grim darkness of the far future, the Emperor's imprisonment is a paradox, an eternal martyrdom that upholds the fragile hope of mankind amid the ceaseless darkness of the galaxy. This tragic stasis embodies the essence of the Warhammer 40K narrative: sacrifice, despair, and the indifferent majesty of a universe where even gods are bound by duty. The Golden Throne is not just a device, it is a crucible of humanity's fate, and upon it sits the Emperor, unable to rise or depart, a living symbol of the endless war against chaos and death. In the vast saga of the Horus Heresy and its aftermath, the Emperor's perpetual vigil demonstrates that sometimes escape is not an option when the weight of a million worlds rests on weary shoulders. This archive has now been fully decoded. Continue your journey into the librarium with the video displayed on screen. The vast wealth of the archives continues to reveal new knowledge of the dark history of the Warhammer 40K verse. In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war.